Toma walked slowly across the empty land, his boots pressing into the soft ash that covered the ground like snow. The sky above was gray and heavy. It had not been blue in weeks. Wind blew dust through the ruins of old machines and broken ships. Once this place had been full of soldiers and life. Now there was nothing but silence, and Mental Toma was a scout from Earth. He had been part of a large team sent to planet Maris to help build peace between the many races fighting here. But the peace plan failed. Everyone scattered, many died. Toma was the only one left from his group as far as he knew carried a small energy rifle. It was damaged but still worked if used carefully. His armor was scratched and missing a piece on the left side. He had not eaten a full meal in days. His hands were dirty and tired, but his eyes were still sharp and full of questions. He walked past the wreck of a tall transport ship that had fallen sideways. The back of the ship was open. He stopped and listened. There was a soft sound coming from inside. A clicking noise followed by a low hum. Toma raised his rifle and stepped inside slowly. The ship was dark. A few lights blinked on the walls. Sparks fell from wires above. The clicking sound grew louder. Then he saw movement near the corner. Aimed carefully and spoke whose Terreno answer came. The shape moved again. He stepped closer. It was someone in armor. Large armor with sharp lines and dark red markings. Not human armor turned toward him. Toma held his breath. Was it a Korani soldier? He had heard of them, cold fighters. Strong, fast, smart. They did not speak much and never showed feeling. This one was sitting on the floor and looked earth, and the armored figure spoke here so handsome. Enema blinked. What did she say? The voice was clearly female and came from the armor's speaker. Her tone was calm, but also strange, like she had practiced those words. With it was all Toma could say. The armored figure reached up and began removing her helmet. Her movements were slow but careful. The helmet came off with a small hiss of air. Her face was smooth with light gray skin. Her eyes were a bright green. Her hair was short and silverish. Looked directly at him. You're human, righties, Toma said. He was still holding his rifle. And you're not going to shoot men, yet he said good. She replied and smiled in a way that felt honest. She then touched her chest plate and began unlocking the armor. Wait, stop, Toma said, raising his rifle again. What are you doing? You seemed surprised when I spoke like that. She said, I was only testing. Your reaction, that line, is something I learned from your media. I thought it would be interesting. You don't need to take off your armor, Toma said. I don't know. Yush paused and looked at him again. I'm not trying to fool you. I'm just tired. And this suit is heavy. I didn't mean to confuse you. My name is Reeve, commander of the Korani 6th Unit, or what is left of it. Toma lowered his weapon. Just a little. We are you alone? Same reason you are, I think, Reeve said. Everyone else is gone. We're told this mission was for peace, but it was a trap. Something went wrong very fast. And now this whole area is lost. Toma nodded slowly. He sat down on a broken piece of metal. Across from her, he kept the rifle near him. Toma, Scout 3rd Class. Earth fleeting. No, Reeve said. I saw your unit badge. When I first found you, Mayu were lying face down outside the ship. 2 drones passed over you. I thought you were dead, but then I saw you move. I wanted to warn you, but I wasn't sure you'd. Trust. Men looked at her with curious eyes. So you saved me. Stop the drones from noticing you. That's all. Toma didn't know what to say. He was not used to kindness from someone who was supposed to be his enemy. Or maybe she wasn't his enemy anymore. So now, what he is scared, can't call for help, Reeve said. The comms are down. I tried before you came in. My suit is low on power. Your rifle's battery is blinking red. This place won't stay quiet forever. Toma sighed and looked around the inside of the broken ship. It was too damaged to use and to open to hide. And there's a relay tower about 5 kilometers north. If it still works, we might send a message from there, he said. Then we go together. Reeve replied, stared at her. We should. I trust you. She tilted her head slightly. You don't have to, but we're both tired alone, and walking targets to eyes are better than one to minds. Even more. Reeve thought about it for a few seconds. Fine, he said, but no more. Strange jockish smiled again. That one was from a human drama. I thought it would break the ice. Stood and helped her up. She was taller than him and moved with a careful grace, even with the weight of her armor. Together they stepped out of the wrecked ship into the wind. The ash still fell from the sky like slow snow. The world around them was quiet, but not safe. They began walking toward the north. They didn't speak for a while, but something had already changed. The wind was stronger now, the air was cold and filled with dust. Toma kept his eyes on the broken road ahead. Cracks ran across the ground, like thin rivers, metal scraps, and burned trees lined both sides of the path. The sky stayed gray but soft. Light peeked through the clouds. Reeve walked beside him. Her armor made small clicking sounds. As she moved, her helmet hung from her belt, and her short silver hair moved slightly with the wind. She looked calm but alert. Her green eyes scanned the horizon. Every few seconds they had walked in silence for almost an hour. When Toma finally spoke, "You said you were a commander." Reeve replied, "So what happened to your team?" "Gone," she said softly. "Some were lost in the first strike, others disappeared. During the retreat I tried to contact them, but nothing came back. I waited for orders, but there were no signals." Toma looked at her with curiosity. "And now you walk with a human soldier who you're supposed to keep away from. Things changed," Reeve said. Then she looked at him. "You didn't leave me behind either. You could have run from the wreck, but you stayed." He didn't know what you don't, yet you stayed. Toma didn't answer. He looked forward again. They moved past a broken vehicle that had once been used to carry supplies. It was half buried in ash and looked like it had been there for weeks. Inside were empty food packs and a torn blanket. Someone had hidden here, but not for long. "Though you always speak like that?" Toma asked. "Like what?" "So direct, like a machine." Reeve gave a small laugh. "Rani are trained to speak with purpose. We don't waste words. It's part of our system." Clarity over comfort too sounded different when you said that thing back in the wreck. "Yes," she said with a smile. "You're so handsome." That was from an Earth show called Stars of Flame. The female character said it to the captain in every episode. Toma shook his head. "So you studied human shows?" "Is quite a few. I wanted to understand how humans think, what they feel, why they act the way they do." Reeve was quiet for a moment before answering. "Becca's no one could explain it properly. Our leaders said humans were strange, dangerous, unpredictable, but also curious, and kinda wanted to see that for myself." Toma looked over at Heron. "What do you think so far?" She gave him a quick glance. "You are not what I expected." They continued walking. Their boots made soft crunching sounds as they crossed broken tiles and old grass. The tower they were heading for was still not in sight, but Toma believed it was just over the next ridge. "You don't act like the Karani I've heard about." He said. "That's because most of what you've heard is from the battlefield." She replied. "In combat we follow rules, no room for softness. But outside battle some of us ask questions. Some of us learn." "So you're one of the curious ones." "I suppose I am." The past the remains of an old outpost, walls torn apart, roofs gone, signs burned by laser fire. Reeve slowed down and picked up a small data disk lying in the dirt. She wiped it clean and placed it in a pouch. "Still collecting human stories?" Toma escaped. "One day someone will want to understand." He said. Reeve's armor gave a soft beep. A warning light blinked on her wrist panel. She looked at it and frowned. "What's wrong?" "Toma escaped. Power cell is dropping fast." She said. "This armor wasn't meant for long travel without support. If it runs out I lose strength. Sensors, temperature balance. You'll still be able to walk righties, but not easily." Toma looked around. He saw an old station ahead. "Maybe they could rest there for a few minutes." "Let's take a break in that building." He said. "You need to save what power you have." Reeve didn't argue. They stepped into the shelter. A broken wall gave them some cover. Inside were empty crates and old chairs. A dusty screen was cracked in one corner. Toma sat on a crate and reached into his bag. He pulled out a small water pouch and offered it to Reeve. She took it and drank slowly. "Thank you," she said. "You're welcome." Eddie sat in silence for a while. Toma leaned his head back and looked at the ceiling. He could hear a faint buzzing noise from outside. Maybe a drone in the far distance, maybe just the wind. "Do you fight?" Reeve asked. Suddenly Toma opened his eyes. "Because I have taught." "That's not a real answer." Sat up. "Because I don't want Earth to be next." He said. "If the fighting spreads, we lose more than just land. We lose people, families." Peace. Reeve nodded slowly. "You fight because I was trained to." "I never asked why until now." "So what made you ask now?" Toma blinked at my eyes. She said. "You act with care even when you don't have to. That is not weakness, it's something else. Something we don't learn." And didn't know what to say. They both stood and stepped back outside. The wind had grown stronger again, and the clouds above began to move slowly as if something was pushing them. Toma pointed toward the ridge. "The relay tower should be just past that hill. If it's still standing, we might be able to send a message. Let's hope it works." Reeve said. As they walked, Toma felt something Strange, he had walked alone for many days since the attack, but now with Reeve beside him, it didn't feel as lonely. She was quiet and sharp, but not cold like he had expected. Maybe peace wasn't built in meetings or written in papers. Maybe it started like this: people from different worlds walking through dust and broken metal, trying to survive a trying to understand. Toma and Reeve climbed the rocky hill slowly. The wind was stronger now and dust filled the air. They both covered their faces as they moved higher step by step. The broken ground shook beneath them, but they pushed forward. Toma looked back at Reeve. Her armor made each step heavier, but she moved with care. Her balance was perfect. Even though her suit's power was dropping, when they reached the top of the hill, Toma stopped and pointed ahead. Third eyes in the distance stood a tall, broken tower. Made of silver metal, it leaned slightly to one side, but still reached for the sky around it. Were smaller buildings, all half buried in dirt, and Reeve narrowed her eyes. That's not the relay tower. What do you mean? This is something else. The structure is older, much older than any human or Qurani descent. Toma stared at it. The tower had a strange shape. It did not follow human or Qurani style. The edges curved smoothly like flowing water. There were no doors or windows, just lines running across the surface that glowed a faint blue. Do you know what it is? He is scared. No, Reeve said softly. But I've seen something like it before, only in records from deep science labs. They call it precursor tech. Precursors, ancient builders. No one knows who they were or where they went. We only find pieces of what they left behind. Some say they created the first space gates. Others say they were watching us before we even learned to fly. Toma felt a small chill, even though the air was warm. Her stepped forward toward the nearest part of the ruin. Reeve followed, but kept some distance. Her hand moved near the side of her armor where her scanner was stored. As they got closer, the glowing lines on the tower grew brighter. The air around them felt different. Not hotter or colder, but thicker, like it was holding its breath. Toma touched the surface with his hand. The moment his skin met the metal, a soft hum filled the air. A wave of light ran down the tower and across the ground. Reeve stepped back. Toma, he didn't do anything, he said. I just touched the ground beneath them, began to shake gently. A line of light appeared in the center of the tower, then a round door slowly opened. A smooth ramp extended down to the ground. Toma and Reeve looked at each other. You woke it up, she said. He didn't mean Tostel. You did. Oh, we go innies, Reeve said after a moment. If this is real precursor tech, then this is a rare chance. We may never see something like this again. They stepped carefully onto the ramp and entered the tower. Inside, the air was clear and dry. The walls glowed with soft blue light. Symbols moved across the walls like floating words, but neither of them could read them. Toma walked forward and stopped at a large table in the middle of the room. It looked like stone, but felt warm to the touch. As soon as he touched it, the symbols above the table changed. They moved quickly, then stopped. A calm voice filled the room. User recognized human origin. Signal confirmed. Reeve looked around with wide eyes. It knows what you rethought's not possible, Toma said. I'm just a scout. I'm not special. The table lit up and showed a map, a spinning image of the planet Maris with blinking points of light. One of them was right where they stood. Selected unit activated. Legacy interface opening. Reeve stepped closer. This place was waiting for someone like you. Toma, he shook his head. He don't understand. I didn't do anything different. Map changed and now showed other planets, other points of light, some blinking, some dark. This system was meant for monitoring, she said. It watches the flow of life and tech across the galaxy. That's why it was hidden. But why respond to meth? That's the real question. Reeve Sage placed her hand on the table. Nothing happened. The symbols did not move. For hair, it only reacts to you. Toma felt strange, not afraid, but not calm either. He never wanted anything special. He just wanted to go home. The table glowed again. A new set of symbols appeared along with a soft tone warning. Active forces detected nearby. Observation mode ending with, does that mean? Reeve escaped. It means we've been seen, Toma said. They turned quickly and walked out of the tower. The door behind them stayed open. The light from the lines now stretched further into the ground like roots. Reeve pulled out her scanner and checked it with signals approaching from the west. Fast movement. They may be drones or scout. Show far 700 meters. Less than 5 minutes. Test can we run? We contribute. Toma was still looking at the tower. There has to be something we can use, something left behind. Not now, Reeve said. We don't know what else is inside. We need to move or we'll be trapped. Toma nodded. They turned and ran across the ash field. The wind was still blowing hard and it was difficult to see clearly as they moved. Toma looked back once. The tower was still glowing brighter than before. Almost Alavethi made it to a small ridge and hid behind a fallen structure. Metal and rock covered them from Reeve checked. Her scanner gained signals. Stop it, stop these, Reeve said. They were coming toward us. But now they've frozen in place. Why would they do that? I don't know, she said softly, unless they saw the tower and decided not to come closer. Reeve didn't answer. Right away, the place may have power. We don't understand, she said. Toma looked down at his hand. The same hand he used to touch the table. It was glowing softly. The light slowly faded. After a few seconds, Reeve saw it too. It marked Yowie didn't ask for that, but now you have it. They sat in silence for a while. Then Reeve spoke again. Whatever this is, it's not just a ruin, it's a key, a message, something left behind for your kind. What happens now? Toma said, keep moving, find the real relay tower. Send a signal to command, but now we know something else is at play here. Something bigger than our war. Toma looked out across the ash-covered land for the first time. Since he landed on Maris, he felt like his mission had just begun. The next morning came quietly. A soft light spread across the gray sky as Toma and Reeve left the strange ruin behind. The ground still glowed in some places, but the tower had gone silent. No more hum, no more moving symbols, no voice. It was asleep again or watching from within. Toma kept glancing at his hand. The light that had appeared before was gone, but he still felt a strange warmth in his skin, like something had changed inside him. He didn't speak of it. Reeve had seen it too, but she said nothing. She only watched him from time to time, as if waiting for something else to happen. They walked quickly through the cracked land. Reeve's scanner was on her wrist again. She checked it every few minutes. Any signs? Toma asked. Or two small signals far behind us. She replied, nothing close to. Cool, be scavenger drones or patrols. Reeve said, either way, we don't stop long. They passed through the remains of a village. The buildings were short and round, half buried in ash. No signs of life, just silence and dry wind. Toma walked over to an old metal sign, wiped off the dust, and saw writing in 3 languages. One of them was human. The place had once been a peaceful outpost used for trade and science. That was before the war reached here. Reeve touched a wall that had scorch marks on it. They didn't even fight back. She said quiet. Lidima looked at Harry. You weren't here when this happened. And no, my team was on the northern front. We didn't know this place had been hit until weeks later. Toma walked beside her as they moved past the old buildings. Did you ever think about stopping the fight before this? I never asked why we fought, Reeve said. I was trained to follow the mission, complete the goal, return home, and now no, I ask a lot of things. They reached a wide field filled with broken machines. Old tanks and transport crawlers rested here like sleeping animals. Some were half covered in vines. Others had blast marks along their sides. A few small fires still burned under the surface. Slow and blurry, scanned the area. Go fast, no signals here, but this place feels wrong. They moved quickly through the field, stepping over crushed weapons and bent panels. Toma kept his rifle ready. He didn't trust quiet places like this. Something always waited in the silence. Halfway across the field, Reeve stopped at her eyes. Narrow. Tamawadas it Listentima paused. The wind was gone. Not slow, gone completely. The air stood still. He heard nothing. No buzzing. No hum. No sound at all. That's not natural. He whispered. Reeve pointed behind the movement shadows at the far edge. To fast for regular patrols. Show mine at least 3 maybe before they're low to the ground. Not walking Draness, these are something else. Toma pulled Reeve toward a metal crawler. They ducked behind it. He peered through a broken window. Shapes moved across the field. Low black forms with long limbs and glowing eye stars scanning the wrecks. Reeve said, they're looking for something. Luciuskin, we run out across open ground. Will be seen in seconds. The black shapes moved closer. They sniffed the ground like animals, then stopped near one of the tanks. One of them touched the metal, and a soft blue spark appeared. The creature growled low and backed away. They don't like the old tech, Reeve said. That may help you. Stoma looked at the tank they were hiding behind. Think it still works now. But we can use the inside to hit it. Creatures split into pairs. 2 of them circled left to came toward the crawler. Time to move, Toma whispered. They climbed inside the crawler's rear hatch. The inside was dark but dry. Old seats lined the wall. Dust floated in the air. Toma found a panel and pulled it down. Wires hung loose. He touched one, and it gave off a tiny spark. Still has some power, he said. Can we use it, maybe? I can overload the door lock if they try to get in. It might shock them. Reeve nodded and began stacking broken crates near the window. What are you doing, Toma? The skeet. If we get caught in here, we'll need a second path out. These will give us a little cover. Toma worked on the panel as fast as he could. His hands moved by memory. Connect red to green. Hold the wire with cloth. Count to 5. Then twist and release. See soft sound click near the back door locked, he said. And charred jet shadows outside came closer. Toma peeked through a crack. One of the black creatures stood right in front of the crawler. It sniffed the ground again, then placed a claw on the door. Here it comes, he said. The creature touched the metal and the shock trap activated. A burst of light shot out with a loud pop. The creature jumped back, screeching. Its eyes flashed, and it ran off. Others turned quickly and followed it. They're leaving, Reeve said in surprise. Maybe they're not used to resistance, Toma replied. Maybe they found what they needed, Reeve said slowly. What does that mean? Reeve showed him the scanner. On of them dropped something. When the shock hit it, they stepped outside carefully. Toma kept the rifle ready. Reeve walked to the place where the shock had hit. A small metal disc lay on the ground. She picked it up. A blinking blue light ran across its surface. It's a tracker, Reeve said. We were being followed since the ruins, so they knew about it too. Maybe they were watching it for years, and when it opened, they came to check who entered. Toma felt a strange weight in his chest. So now, we're not just lost soldiers, which gets not just us, Reeve said. Whatever woke up back there, it's alive now, and they want to stop it. Toma nodded slowly. Then we make sure it doesn't stop. He turned and walked toward the north once again. The real relay tower was still far, but now they had a mission bigger than survival. They had to warn others because now they knew something old had woken and it was watching. Toma and Reeve moved quickly through the cracked plains. The sun had begun to dip low behind the distant hills, casting long shadows across the ash-covered ground. Their bodies were tired, but they kept going. The relay tower was still far, and they both knew time was not on their side. Reeve kept her scanner active, watching for any sign of movement. The tracker they had found earlier had stopped blinking, but she was certain others were still searching for them. The creatures from before were silent hunters, and they would not give up easily. Toma glanced at the sky. The soft pink and orange colors reminded him of home, but here it felt strange, like a memory of something lost. Reeve, he said quietly, how long until we reach the relay tower? About 3 kilometers, she replied, if the terrain stays clear. Toma nodded. We don't have much time. They moved on, carefully stepping over broken stones and scorched earth. The landscape was still desolate, but every now and then, Toma spotted small signs of life. A lone bird flying in the distance, a patch of green grass near a stream. It gave him hope that Maris was not completely lost. Reeve kept her voice low. This planet has seen war for too long, but it still breathes, still fights to live. Toma smiled faintly. Maybe it's like us, broken, but not defeated. After some time, they reached the edge of a small valley. At the bottom, hidden among ruins, stood the relay tower. Unlike the strange precursor structure, this tower looked familiar. Tall and sharp, with blinking lights on its sides and a metal antenna stretching toward the sky. They approached carefully. The tower was old but still intact. The door was sealed tight, but Reeve's scanner showed power inside. It was working. Let me try the main console, Reeve said. Toma kept watch while Reeve moved to the tower's base. Her fingers danced over the control panel, entering codes and commands from memory. The door hissed open slowly. Inside, the tower was cold but alive. Lights flickered and machines hummed softly. Reeve connected a small data disk she had taken from the ruins earlier into the console. The screen blinked, and a list of commands appeared. This tower is still linked to the command network. She said, if I can send a signal, help will come. Toma looked at the screen. Can you do it? I can try. Reeve's fingers flew over the controls. The relay tower's antenna began to spin slowly, searching for a connection. The screen showed a list of frequencies, some active, some dead. Finally, it locked onto one. A message box appeared. Reeve began typing. This is Scout Toma and Commander Reeve from Earth. We have discovered an active precursor structure on Maris. Enemy forces are hunting us. Request immediate support and investigation. She paused. Then pressed send. The tower hummed louder. The antenna blinked faster. But seconds passed without any reply. Nothing, Toma said, his voice tense. Reeve tried again. The message was sent twice more, but no response came. Maybe the network is down. Reeve said, or they can't reach us. Toma frowned. We can't stay here. Suddenly, the tower shook violently. Alarms blared, and lights flashed red. Warning, unauthorized presence detected. A robotic voice shouted. Reeve grabbed Toma's arm. We triggered a defense system. The door slammed shut behind them. The tower's walls began to glow with bright blue light. Panels slid open, revealing hidden weapons. Automated turrets extended from the ceiling and walls. Toma raised his rifle. Get ready. The turrets fired beams of energy that swept across the room. Toma and Reeve ducked behind consoles and crates, narrowly avoiding the blasts. We have to shut down the system. Reeve shouted. She ran toward the main control panel, dodging beams. Toma covered her, firing at the turrets to disable them one by one. The air was thick with tension and noise. Reeve reached the shutdown controls and began typing furiously. The alarm stopped for a moment, but then another wave of energy fired from hidden guns. The room shook again. Dust fell from the ceiling. I'm almost there, Reeve yelled. Toma covered her with steady fire. The last turret exploded in a burst of sparks. With a final command, Reeve pressed a large red button. The blue lights faded. The weapons retracted. The tower was silent again. They both exhaled deeply. That was close, Toma said. Yes, Reeve replied, but we need to move faster. Whatever controls this tower is old but still very dangerous. Toma looked out a small window. Night had fallen. Stars shone brightly, unfamiliar constellations that spoke of distant worlds. Do you think anyone will come? He asked. Reeve looked at the screen. A new message had arrived. It was short but clear. Acknowledged. Rescue team dispatched. Estimated arrival, 24 hours. Toma smiled for the first time in days. We're not alone. Reeve nodded. Help is on the way. They found a small storage room and settled inside for the night. Toma cleaned his rifle while Reeve checked her armor's power. The quiet was a welcome change. Before sleep took them, Reeve spoke softly. You changed something when you touched the precursor tower. Toma looked at her. I don't understand it, but you carry a mark now. It links you to this place. That may be why the tower responded only to you. He touched his hand where the faint warmth still lingered. Maybe it means something. Reeve smiled faintly. Or maybe it means hope. Toma closed his eyes. Tomorrow would be a new day. A day where they would no longer walk alone. The night was quiet inside the relay tower. Toma and Reeve sat close to the wall, their bodies tired but minds alert. Outside, the stars blinked softly, their light distant but steady. The message from command had given them hope, but also a warning. They had only 24 hours before rescue would arrive. Toma looked at his hand again. The faint warmth still pulsed under his skin. He didn't understand it, but he felt connected to the strange precursor power. It was like a silent voice calling him forward. Reeve stood up and stretched. We should rest while we can. Tomorrow will be hard. Toma nodded. But we stay alert. Reeve smiled faintly. Of course. Morning came slowly. A soft gray light filtered through the tower's windows. The machines hummed quietly, their blue glow still faint. Toma and Reeve checked their gear and prepared to move. We need to find a better place to wait for rescue, Reeve said. This tower may hold power, but it's also a beacon. Others may come, Toma agreed. We should find higher ground or cover, somewhere safe. They stepped outside. The sun was rising over the hills, painting the sky with soft oranges and pinks. The air was cool but fresh. The ash-covered land stretched out around them, empty and still. Reeve checked her scanner. No immediate threats. But the tracker signal is stronger now. They know where we are. Toma frowned. They won't stop until they get the precursor tech. Reeve nodded. Then we must protect it. They began moving toward a rocky ridge a few kilometers away. The climb was slow, the ground uneven and rough, but the ridge gave a better view of the surrounding area, a wide plain with broken trees and scatter. Ed ruins dot at the top. Toma and Reeve found a small cave. It was hidden behind large boulders and shadowed by twisted roots. Inside, the air was cool and damp. It was a good place to wait. They set up a small camp with supplies from their packs. Toma cleaned his rifle again. Reeve checked the power in her armor. Hours passed. The silence was broken only by the soft wind and distant calls of strange birds. Toma stared out from the cave entrance. The land looked empty, but he knew better. Danger waited beyond the hills. Reeve sat beside him. Do you think the others will come soon? Toma shrugged. I hope so. We need help. Reeve looked at him. You carry something now. The precursor mark. It's not just a sign. It may be a key. Toma touched his hand. I don't know what it means. Reeve smiled softly. Neither do I. But it gives us a chance. Maybe a way to protect this world. Suddenly, the scanner beeped sharply. Movement detected. Multiple signatures. Approaching fast. Toma stood quickly. They're here. Reeve grabbed her rifle. Prepare yourself. From the distance, dark shapes moved across the plain. The black creatures were coming back, faster this time, and in greater numbers. Their glowing eyes pierced the morning light. Toma took a deep breath. We hold the cave. No matter what, the creatures closed in. They moved silently, but with purpose. Toma and Reeve waited until they were close, then opened fire. The beams from their rifles cut through the air, striking the creatures. Some fell, but many kept coming. They moved like shadows, weaving between rocks and trees. Toma ducked behind a boulder, firing steadily. Reeve moved to block one creature that tried to flank them. Their weapons worked, but the creatures were relentless. Suddenly, one of the creatures leaped toward Toma. He fired but missed. It grabbed his arm with sharp claws. Toma struggled, trying to break free. Reeve ran over and shot the creature twice. It released him and fell back with a growl. Are you okay? She asked, checking his arm. It's scratched, nothing serious. Toma said, but we need to end this. Reeve nodded. There's something I can try. She reached into her pack and pulled out a small device, a pulse emitter. It was designed to disrupt electronic signals. This might confuse them, she said. If they rely on technology, this could slow them down. Toma helped her set the device near the cave entrance. Reeve activated it. A low hum filled the air. The pulse spread outward like ripples in a pond. The creatures stopped moving and twitched. Their eyes flickered and dimmed out one by one. They turned and fled back across the plain. Toma and Reeve watched them go. The danger had passed, at least. For now, we bought some time, Reeve said. But they'll come back, Toma replied. Reeve looked at the sky. Help will come soon. We just need to survive. They settled back into the cave, exhausted but alive. Outside, the world was quiet again. As night fell, Toma thought about the precursor tower and the mark on his hand. Something ancient was awakening, something powerful. He was no longer just a scout lost on a strange world. He was part of a larger story, one that might change everything. He looked at Reeve and smiled tiredly. We're ready for whatever comes next. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting a soft light on the rocky ridge where Toma and Reeve had taken shelter. The air was cool, and the silence of the morning was almost peaceful. But both of them knew the calm would not last long. Toma checked his rifle and gear again. The mark on his hand still glowed faintly, a soft warmth that gave him strength, but also reminded him of the unknown power inside. He felt connected to the precursor structure in a way he could not explain. Reeve was standing near the cave entrance, scanning the horizon with her scanner. The device was quiet now, but she did not trust the silence. The black creatures had attacked before and would surely return. They were hunters, and this time, they would be more careful. Toma, she said, the rescue team is still ours. Away. We can't wait here forever. He nodded. We need to finish what we started. That precursor structure holds answers and maybe a way to stop the war. Reeve looked at him with a serious expression. "You're ready for this," Toma smiled faintly. "I don't have a choice." They packed their gear and moved down the ridge toward the relay tower. The ruins below looked different in the daylight, empty, silent, but full of hidden danger. As they reached the base of the tower, the strange energy pulsing from the precursor structure grew stronger. Toma could feel it in his bones, like a call he had to answer. Reeve set up her scanner near the tower entrance. "If we can link your mark to the tower's core, maybe we can control the power inside." Toma placed his hand on the cold metal wall. The mark glowed brighter. The tower hummed, and symbols appeared on the surface, bright lines moving like a circuit. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath their feet. Dust fell from the tower's sides. The creatures were coming again. "Prepare yourself," Reeve shouted. The black hunters appeared from the shadows, creeping forward with glowing eyes and long limbs. They surrounded the tower, blocking any escape. Toma and Reeve stood back to back, firing steadily. Their weapons lit up the dark air with beams of energy. The creatures fought fiercely, but could not reach them. Then Toma felt a surge inside him. The mark on his hand pulsed strongly, and a wave of light spread from his skin to the tower. The symbols on the tower flashed faster and brighter. "Reeve, I think I can control it." Toma shouted. "Do it," she yelled, fighting off a creature that tried to climb the wall. Toma focused his mind and hand on the glowing marks. Slowly, the tower responded. The symbols rearranged, and the tower's hum changed to a powerful song like a voice from the past. The creatures hissed and backed away, confused by the sudden change. Toma opened his mind to the tower's power. Images flashed before him: stars, planets, ancient machines, and peaceful worlds connected by a great energy network. The precursor builders were a civilization older than anyone had imagined. They created the towers to protect knowledge and keep balance in the universe. But something had gone wrong, and their power was lost, waiting to be found again. Toma saw a vision of a bright light rising from the planet's core. It spread through the towers, healing the broken land and stopping the wars. He smiled and turned to Reeve. "We can use this power to save Maris, to stop the fighting and bring peace." Reeve's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" Toma nodded. "The mark gave me control. We just need to release the energy together." They worked on the tower's controls, guided by the glowing symbols. The energy grew stronger, flowing through the tower and into the land. Outside, the black creatures screamed and fled. The light chased them away like a wave, cleansing the ground and sky. Toma and Reeve felt the power wash over them. It was warm and gentle, but strong enough to change the world. The tower's antenna sent a bright signal into space to call for help, peace, and a new beginning. Far away, rescue ships answered the signal, coming to the planet's surface. Toma looked at Reeve and smiled. "We did it. We woke the power. We saved Maris." Reeve smiled back. "And we proved that even in the darkest times, hope can shine through." The sun shone brighter now, and the land began to heal. The war was over. The end.